If you would compare CS 1.6 to CSGO, what's the major differences?
I think obviously the major difference is the graphic engine. In Counter-Strike Go we have a more well-developed, more recent engine based on the source engine, an updated one. Gameplay-wise, I would say that the weapons are also very different. The grenades are extremely different. But then again, down to the aspects of the game, like communication, strategies, these are quite the same. You kind of see the good players in 1.6 or the source players switch to Counter-Strike Go and still remain very successful. So you have all the instruments from Counter-Strike and the team-based FPS still in Counter-Strike Go.
And when you play CSGO, how do you feel the game behaves in comparison with 1.6?
I would say, obviously you have to bear in mind that I'm 28 now, so I don't have really fresh mindset going into playing CSGO because I've been playing one game for like 12 years. So the movement, the way you're moving your mouse or how you're jumping around on the map is completely different and completely new for me. And I think it's kind of hard for me to adapt, but we see like the best players out there, they have find a way to make it smooth, you know, cutting the corners, transporting fast between one bomb spot and the other. Whereas me, for a beginner, it's kind of hard. I'm kind of still trying to bunny jump. I'm still trying to do the Russian walk and all that. But for me, it would just be a matter of training, I think. But yeah, I think the key word here for me, a new player, a person that has played a lot of 1.6, I feel less smooth. But obviously, I know somewhere in me that obviously you are able to adapt. You are able to achieve this in CSGO as well.
NiP is clearly very dominant on the scene right now. How do you think that affects the competitive scene of CS?
I think probably it affects the grassroots negatively because every tournament becomes a bit less interesting considering how many tournaments they have won now in a row. Obviously they got beaten by Virtus.pro in a domestic tournament in Ukraine, which I wouldn't take too many conclusions from. But yeah, they have been the team since pretty much day number one of Counter-Strike Go. For them it's great. I think for the professional, the hardcore community, I think it's also great because it kind of shows how good you can play the game, and it also activates new teams like semi-pros to play even more. And even Fnatic, we need to play more now because we need to catch up with these guys. But of course, we would prefer, I mean, from an observer's viewing point, I would say it would be great with a great Asian team, like a successful Asian team, and also an American team. If they can really achieve and play well internationally, that will be great for Counter-Strike overall. But obviously, NIP, they should not say sorry to anyone. It's just the other teams that are a bit behind now, and they should play even more.
And what is it that makes NiP as good as they are?
Well, I think like Scandinavian teams, for whatever reason, have always been very successful in team-based FPS games or e-sport in general, I suppose, or everything, even like IKEA, Ericsson and all that. I think we're very good team players. We can deal with each other in a professional but also a very friendly way. And obviously they are boosted by a lot of confidence now, starting out winning many tournaments in a row in late 2012. But hey, speak about the players they have. f0rest exists. Some of the best players in the history of Counter-Strike 1.6 is now playing in the same constellation of players of team. And we have two new, not new, but young players at least in f0rest and f0rest, who okay, obviously not now, but at that point had a lot to show and a lot to still win. So I think they have a great combination of everything you need, all the aspects, all the kind of instrumental parts of Counter-Strike. They have it within one team, and it's just amazing to see them. They are very successful, obviously.
How far behind is the other teams compared to NiP?
I think it depends what team we're talking about here. I think the Russian team Virtus.pro is somewhere nearby, but much less consistent. I think very games, aim-wise, is probably even better than NIP, but it's all in their heads, I think, and their strategies and their way of adapting and reading the game. I kind of find that kind of appalling. I've seen so many tournaments now where they have like literally given rounds, maps and matches and tournaments away just because they have failed to play good in the heat of the moment, something that NIP does extremely well with all the experience and confidence they have.
Who do you consider to be the best CS player of all time?
That would be f0rest, Neo,
get right, probably in that order. But then we have many other great players out there as well, and I can sit here the whole entire afternoon just name drop people. But I think f0rest definitely stands out now when we have had Counter-Strike Go running for a year almost, and he has been like the best player in that game as well. Whereas players like Neo and Fnatic's Trace, like giant players, prominent players in CS 1.6, both Neo and Trace, have not been able to adapt as fast and as successfully into Counter-Strike Go. So I have to give it to f0rest here.
And you are obviously working as a manager nowadays for Fnatic. What is the most exciting part of your work?
I think winning and seeing young players shine and achieve something they probably didn't think was possible. Which kind of proves that the team model, the organization, has a purpose in this industry. And yeah, just like being around the players and watching the game, sometimes that gets my heart bumping more than when I usually play myself. You get more nervous from watching. And just overall, like being a part of like the product development and still close to the Fnatic fans and just taking the business to the next chapter. Everything is very exciting in esports right now. We are in a business that kind of didn't exist for 12 years, which means you cannot just go and buy a book in the library or in a bookshop. Like how do you set up a business in esports? How do you become a gaming team? Like if you were open up a restaurant, you can like study that basically. But here it's all about like try and error, and there are so many opportunities and there are many mistakes to still do. It's a lot of success to still benefit from. And yeah, I mean, just the acceleration we've seen now in the past year has been amazing, obviously powered by the live streams. A lot of media coverage, a lot of mainstream TV channels, newspaper, magazines are covering esports right now. And that makes you a bit proud as well, I suppose, being one of the pioneers. I wouldn't say pioneers, but you know, being someone that played CS 1.6 professionally pretty much since the start of the professional circuit.
What is the most important part of esports going forward, as you say?
I think we need to try to grow it into regions where we haven't seen it prominent yet. Like realistically, compare some of the conventional sports out there. It's probably more expensive participating, practicing, traveling in these sports compared to gaming, because you can basically get pretty far with just like, I wouldn't say a simple laptop, but like one of the basic models. You just play some games and getting star and being competitive. And what I think is especially great with esport is that you don't have any like boundaries, you don't have any limitations in terms of your gender, where you're from, if you have a disability, if you're a boy or a girl, you know, like it doesn't really matter in esports. Everybody can compete. And we have like a neutral platform, a neutral battleground, I suppose, where everybody can play and everybody's welcome to play. That is something unique in esports. But then how do we optimize this? How do we make it even better? How do we make it even more available for other people? I'm also a bit like concerned about the health issues that I think esports is still suffering from. Everybody knows it's not great to sit in front of a computer 12 hours a day, but that's something you kind of have to do now because everybody's competing and everybody's practicing so much, especially like StarCraft 2 players, the Korean team houses, they sit like crazy. And I think in order to gain the social acceptance like from the society and all that, I think we need to promote this more as a sport and not being like just a, how to say, like a basement activity. And I think that comes from like showing that we are healthy, showing that we are able to speak about the sport and promoting it as a sport and promoting it as a fair play sport as well. I think that's very important.
Where do you see esports in 5 years?
Very tough question, I think, considering the fact, if you remember where esport was like 2009, only 3-4 years ago, compared to where it is today, where we're more or less filling up stadiums, venues, where you normally have like sports, filling up like venues worth like 10,000 seats, which is quite amazing. Not to talk about the live stream, of course, which have exploded and accelerated the development of esport and made it more available for everybody. You don't need to have the game copy right now. You can just get into the browser and just follow it on any live stream service. I think many people would probably say like it's going to be like a conventional sport. It's going to be in the Olympics. It's going to be in more on television. But I don't think that's the key. I think we need to remember who we are and what we're coming from and realizing that we are indeed creating something new here. I think we can still maintain and grow from being like solely on live stream, solely online, because
the population of today, the young population at least, are more or less living their lives on internet. But then again, I think we should make it more accessible for the non-users, the non-gamers as well. And that's something, I mean, that's a question I think we need to resolve, how to do that. And that's something that can probably keep us up many nights, because that's very tough, because the games are still very complicated compared to many other conventional sports. You need to know the units, you need to know the builds. But yeah, then again, there are some great casters, some great commentators out there that are making it very comprehensive for new gamers as well.